Hey, we're live. Gonna draw some VeeFriends comics today. Thought it's a good way to kick off a new year. We're not really supposed to start right now, but Gary was excited and I'm excited. The whole team's excited. So thought we would pop in here and do a New Year's live stream. So New Year's drawing stream. So here's the agenda for today, and I'm gonna get right into it in a minute. And I'm gonna try to, monitor the chat occasionally. I'm kind of here solo today. Everybody else is off, like we're supposed to be off today. But good morning, everybody. License plate girl, Corso, Josh, awesome. So I'll occasionally look up to check the chat. But today's agenda, gonna finish a new strip from Gary. Talk about that, and probably learn to draw the hardworking wombat and the rational rattlesnake, and then a Q&A break every 20 minutes, half an hour or so. I'll look up and see what's going on the chat. But otherwise, I'm just going to be here chilling and drawing and kind of just walking through the process. So let's just get right into that. And also, I'm going to go ahead and just click an invite link. Don't want to bother, Gary on the day off. He's supposed to be away from technology today, but I'm going to go ahead and share the link with them real quick, just in case they want to pop in later. New Year's join link. So happy New Year, everybody. Going to do a lot of drawing this year. A lot of VeeFriends stuff, a lot of VeeFriends comics, and I'm excited to do it. All right. Okay. All right, so let me change my screen up a little bit here to get myself smaller. There we go. All right, so make sure I got my chat on this screen, get set up here. Hey, May, Matt, Dylan, Zen, Eve, Happy New Year, everybody. Let's draw some comics. All right, so a couple days ago, you might have seen on Thursday, we did the catfish strip. So just a little recap for you here. The bison catfish strip, which may have some inside jokes or not. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the inner workings of everything that's going on, but I know that Gary and I were chatting back and forth, and he was giving me the idea, and I was sketching some things and showing him, and he was super excited. So we just got to work with it. So you may have seen that, of course, and that came out really nice. The colors are really good, and I'm super happy with that one. Okay, and then Saturday, I think it was Saturday, Gary and I just were chopping it up. The way that it works right now, and I'm sure this may change over time, but it's an interesting process, is we just share ideas, or he'll share some ideas via text with me, and we'll go back and forth. I might show him a quick sketch, and this has only been a couple days now, so Saturday I think we wrote like 3 strips together, and he said, I did 4, and we're still working on the first one, but he's like, go ahead and draw any of those, like they're good to finish. So the one I'm going to be finishing today features the birds, humble hummingbird, bubbly buzzard, and peaceful pelican. So that's the first time I drew those characters. Later on, I'll draw the hardworking wombat and the rational rattlesnake for the next strip. But we'll see how fast I can get into that. But I've already penciled out a little bit of this strip. Well, I've penciled the whole thing, actually. So we will get into what this strip is. So Gary had an idea for, he doesn't like it when people are outraged in airports, specifically, and not being kind. So here we have a very angry person that's a premier elite flyer and they're complaining at the Starbucks. And also, kind of maybe that might turn into Gary kind of watching from his seat, kind of annoyed, like, ugh, and then little sneak peek from the black cat there. Um, so the concept here is that, and this looks a little rough. These are just rough, so I'm going to ink it out, make it nice and smooth here in a minute. Um, so here we have Humble Hummingbird, kind of on a walkie-talkie saying Peaceful Pelican. We have a jerk alert, gate 5, and then we cut to Peaceful Pelican. Roger that. Humble Hummingbird. Bubbly Buzzard is en route with an empathy bomb. I don't know if he's going to be saying LFG. We'll see. It's just so easy to make any of these characters saying that. So let's see how it goes. It's still funny though. So there's an empathy bomb. This panel looks a little confusing. Basically, the bird has swooped in. Buzzard has swooped in. And it's going to be like magical words, like in different colors and things like that. Yeah, maybe we change it to empathy package, but empathy bomb was kind of the funny thing. So these words will be kind of like magical looking, like some like explosive, colorful stuff. And he's like, oh, he like hears these words and stuff. And then at the end, he's being nice and apologizing, and the barista is giving him a free coffee on the house, and the birds are high-fiving, saying mission accomplished. So that's what I'm working on today. I'm going to get right into it and kind of start inking this up. Right on. I'll probably chat as I'm talking, just kind of going through my process a little bit. So what I'm doing right now is, this is my pencil layer. I'm going to fade it out and just nice and light. I can actually get rid of that layer too on the back. That's for background colors later on. So now it's very light. That's good. Switch up the ink to a black ink. Usually I'll do the balloons first, just to kind of get them, situated. If the text is going to stay this, and it will, I think. So Gary saw the script and approved it. Hope everybody had a good, safe, happy New Year's. Let's see here. My wife and I had a nice dinner, and then we went to a local casino, and played some slots and just had some fun, just walking around, people watching. And no big parties for us, Scott was pulled over for not having a Jeep light bar covered. Sorry, Scott. It's not a good way to start a new year. But, at least you got that out of the way. Law of averages, right? Like, maybe that'll be good for that. Whoop. All right. Yeah, I thought about that, using the word bomb with an airport, but it's an empathy bomb, so maybe we change it to package. I don't know, because this doesn't really look like a bomb. It's just a package of like a duffel bag. It's to the jerk. Yeah, I was kind of just this past week, I don't technically start full time until tomorrow, officially, but I couldn't help but just share a sketch that I was working on, and I've just been kind of working behind the scenes on some things, and Gary saw it and he's like, "Hey, do the sommelier and a couple other um, ideas that I was sketching up," and he's like, "Got to do the oh, I got this bison idea. Like, let's do it as soon as possible." And I wasn't doing anything else at the time, so I'm like, "Yeah, let's just do it. Let's try it." It was during the Jets game too, which was a trip. And I told Gary, I'm like, "This was not on my bingo card for the year, to be writing comic strips with Gary during a Jets game." So that was fun. It's an interesting process because it's very modern, I guess, to say like that Gary could just text me ideas. I'm sure, well, he's very busy, and I'm sure we'll have some meetings in person and stuff. But it's a nice way of being creative, collaborating in that way. And then I'm sure that he'll pop on some streams and we'll do it live. We'll make some, we'll write some strips live, and it'll be really fun. It'll be fun to do. There's definitely no shortage of ideas and no shortage of characters to use. So we'll kind of feel it out and see, who gets their voice in the strip. And right now we're just kind of going with the flow. I think just starting out and feeling it out. Somebody else asked if how long will I be streaming, and the answer is I don't know today. So let's see how it. My agenda, the goal is to get this strip done. So it might be a couple hours. I might be here for a couple hours, and I might get real quiet. Trying to bust through some of the inks, and then time permitting, I'd like to maybe sketch up the wombat and the rattlesnake for the next strip. And I won't spoil that right now. That's for the next stream. There's always a tendency to want to zoom way in and get all the details, but no one's ever going to see when it's super small. You know what I mean? So, especially when you're drawing digitally, that's where a lot of a lot of cartoonists will get stuck because they noodle. We call it noodling. They just noodle forever and don't get to it. Sometimes you just got to ship those lines and get it out there. And these are very colorful characters, so sometimes I might ink the line where the color lines will be on Hummingbird, but then it'll change later. Getting that, but I just want to kind of mark where the coloring may change. but I'll look at the colors again whenever I'll look at their character colors whenever I get to that stage. And this will probably be like some like, fluttering wings. One wing is kind of holding it up. I get it. This balloon's a little bit sketch. And a couple other artists. Sometimes other artists will reach out and be like, "Why don't you just use, do things faster? And here's a faster way of doing it." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I'm pretty fast. One full color strip could take anywhere between 4.5 to 5 hours, depending on the detail that's in it." And let me get some of this background. This may or may not be Gary on his phone in the background. It's definitely someone that's taking notice of the situation that's happening. Also, another trick would be that, not a trick, but if a writer will give a comic artist a script that says like they're in a busy airport in one panel, that's hard to show. So like showing the waiting area, you've got the little kiosk and then a window with like a plane kind of parked. Just kind of gives you that feel of, oh, that's where they're at. You're just setting the scene. You don't need to worry about too many details of, it's not a photograph or a movie. It's a comic, so. So thanks for tuning in and watching, and maybe we'll stop back later, pop in later and see the progress too. If you want to just kind of zoom in and zoom out, say hello. I'll check the chat for some questions later on if you have any. Otherwise, this guy, I'll jump around sometimes and just kind of whatever I feel like inking. This music down a little bit. I just have some sort of random beat going on back there. This is your outraged elite flyer in an airport who's upset that this Starbucks doesn't have the flavor that his local Starbucks has. I'm giving this barista a hard time. Yeah, there's a lot of questions, but also a lot of kind of unknowns about the strip so far. We'll get to the details in the next couple weeks. I'm sure we'll have a better schedule, and you know, stream times will be kind of set for when I'm going live. And another artist I know was like, "How are you gonna, like, won't that drive you crazy going live so much?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I don't know what kind of jobs people have, but or how many meetings you're on, but man, my previous jobs, I might be in meetings all day long that were just kind of mind numbing. So, 1 or 2 hour stream, I mean, it's basically the equivalent of a couple meetings, and at least these are really fun, fun meetings to do. So, kind of switch your perspective on what might be hard and not hard to do. Kind of stop and kind of just see preview it occasionally, just so you can see what's coming up. This is going to be kind of that's not supposed, this panel's not supposed to be on. There we go. That'll be a fun one to do, because it's going to be like magical words and things like that over that. Some color, some fun with the color on that one. Originally, I thought maybe he was wearing like a V-neck or like a chain. He's gonna have like a gold chain. Change that up. And subtle things like that too. Like, you can't have too much going on in a panel, but this is like a doubly annoying thing when somebody has like their volume all the way up on their phone and they're walking through a place, so like rude if you're in a line for a coffee, you're blaring, your music. Yeah, I'm excited to do like a full, writing session with the team, and I think we're going to be coming up with so many different ideas. I mean, there's already so many ideas floating around behind the scenes, and how to interact with, the holders and the fans, and maybe having some like fan days. There's a lot of ideas for strips. But ideas are great. But we got to get to work. We got to actually make the comics. So they're not talking about it, but don't really want to show, I think when we do brands, I'm not sure what the rules would be, but I'm just kind of going off of what I know, and you might not want to show real brands inside the the strips. So we're just gonna star out Starbucks there for right now. one of my favorite cartoonists or comic book artists is Todd McFarlane, back when he did Spider-Man, and long time ago, late 80s, early 90s, late 80s Spider-Man. And something that he used to do, if you go look at those comics, is he would hide Felix the cat inside of inside like the covers of the book. And so if I, one of the things I'm gonna like to do is try to hide the black cat, like a seek and find sort of thing, or he'll just make a little appearance. So here he is sitting next to this fella. And then I'm not too worried about the detail on these seats because they're so far, like I said, they're so far in the background that it doesn't make much sense for me to put a lot of super detail on there. That's what cartoonists call economy of line. So even with the cat, we could just have the shape. Completely blacked it out. And then, we'll just make they're just chilling back there, watching the scene unfold. Again, like some silhouettes of other people sitting back there. Be more done in the coloring stage than the ink stage. So yeah, I can't think of a better way to start a new year on New Year's Day. I've been drawing comics for years, so I don't think there's been a New Year's Day where I wasn't drawing, something. But this is a real treat to think about the year and wake up and do this in 2024. Such a good community. The vibes are so positive and awesome. Like, we need more of that for sure. So many creators I know and artists, and that they're just down on themselves or whatever. So I always try to like pull them back, because whatever, the world's kind of pulled them into negative land. Let's call it it's real easy to fall into that with the news and all the stuff going on, other people's vibes. Try not to dwell on the bad stuff, and that's what's fun for me about the VeeFriends is I even see all the conversations on Twitter or X. People, some people having some hard times sometimes, and then somebody will throw in a VeeFriend at them, talk about it. Okay, this is how we do it, and they're very supportive of each other. I like that. Helps. it's really cool that characters or something from your imagination or Gary's imagination can help people get through. Just like um, well, Gary says like Sesame Street or Pokemon or all the things that we use for escapism, but specifically like I was listening in on one of the what do they call it on X, like the circles or the audio chats, and there was a fella in there that was saying that like he got into VeeFriends because he had a friend that passed away, and it was like he was just dealing with it, you know, like going through stuff, dealing with the loss, and Kind Warrior was his character that he kind of attached to because of it reminded him of his friend. I don't mean to pause this deep message right now, but I can't decide if humans have 4 fingers or 3 fingers in this world. All the animals have 3 fingers, so I really don't like doing the 3 finger thing on people, but I'm gonna do it. It's a little weird. How about people have 3 fingers? No, it doesn't make any sense. I'm just gonna go with the 3 fingers. Someday we'll talk about why that is. Pretty. I don't like that hand. Let's just fix that. Yeah, so it was neat to hear the backstories from people, like why you connect to certain characters, or like the what it stands for in your life could be different than what it stands for in someone else's life. That's really cool. You know, there's not a whole lot of things out there like that. Music, maybe, like songs, can mean different things to different people, but yeah. Mm-hmm. There'll be a green apron, black. Let's give her a little earring. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the stream will be, I imagine, sometimes the streams will be just me chilling out, chatting, just getting work done because it's a lot of work. But other times, if someone wants to come in and join the stream and chat, ask me questions while I'm drawing, that's cool. Totally do that. You know, Gary's got like the bat phone, like he can jump in at any time and just be like, I got an idea. And then we might just stop this, what I'm drawing right now, and let's just start sketching out a new thing. I like that. That's kind of, I envision that happening at some point. Can't wait to see an Anaconda comic. I'm sure it'll happen. I'm sure it will happen. I think maybe the next comic is featuring the rational rattlesnake. It's not an anaconda, but you know, it's part of the family there. Sometimes, if you're looking like at comics take a look, like these little dashes, like they just kind of denote where the floor is, or maybe like carpet, or it's instead of drawing those. I don't want to get too into the weeds with this stuff with you guys, but maybe I will. But you want things in the foreground to be a little thicker to stand out, so I'll put a little different outline around the hummingbird here. Just enough, just subtle, just something subtle. And then, but these little lines on the floor can just kind of, they're there and they're subtle. They'll be colored in, but like it kind of gives you the illusion of perspective without drawing all the perspective lines. It's not necessary to do that. So, again, don't want to noodle too much, but there's just little details that just kind of bring the panel to life. I don't like that line. And I'll start a lot of thoughts and then not finish them too. That's just what's going to happen because you do that when you're drawing. But earlier I was saying that artists were saying that why don't you just, why don't you use vector balloons and why don't you use this? Why don't you use that? And I'm like, well, I'm pretty quick the way that I do it. And I just like to do it this way. I like to do it. I mean, I've inked this entire panel in 36 minutes. So not bad, not bad. And that's a lot going on in this panel, actually. There's some background, there's this. So this panel won't take that long to do. It's just two fun characters. Maybe like the coloring will be a little bit, but we'll do like a swoop in there. And, I guess we're just going to make him sand. LFG, we'll make the LFG a bit bigger. Too, why not? It'll be in a different color. Maybe we'll use like the color of the buzzard for the balloon sometimes. Let's just see. And I like hand-drawn balloons, I don't know what to say. If someone else doesn't like it, that's cool. But when you do fonts and like really perfect looking balloons, it just kind of starts to lose it just loses something to me. It's my opinion. I'm all for using all those things. Like sometimes I will probably letter some things up in a vector program. Mm-hmm. Jonathan asked, will there be high-res downloadable versions available of the daily strips, or is this a physical prints close? The answer to that is I'm not sure. I don't see why there couldn't be. It's an option, but it's up to the gang, whatever they want to do. But yeah, it's these are all drawn pretty high resolution, and I'm making them. I always make most of the comics I do. I don't like this balloon here. Let me fix that. Most of the comics I do are for print. We're trying to aim for something that's going to be printed in some shape or form. That's better. Okay. Yeah, the sky's the limit. I mean, I guess I don't make those decisions, but boy, I like to, I like to listen to in comics and comic audiences and stuff like that. I think listening to the audience is important. You don't want to just put something out that nobody's asked for. So sometimes the audience will tell you what they want. So I saw on Twitter a lot of people saying they wanted prints. Like they're like, I want to collect these strips or print them out, which is also kind of ties to one of the goals of my goal as a cartoon strip cartoonist is that I'd like to draw strips that people would want to hang out and put on their refrigerator or in their cubicle or something like that to make them smile or make their day better or like send to a friend like this reminds me of you or something like that. um, so I understand the collectability of it too, but it's nice to hear people say like, I want this, I'm going to show this to my, somebody that it reminds you of or your kids or something like that. That's cool. It's fun. Kill them with empathy. Yeah. I go back and forth because the empathy bomb thing, just sounds good. Any kind of bomb at the airport might not be a great idea. Also notice nuances to these characters, as I've been sketching them behind the scenes a little bit. Is that some birds have just regular, cartoony feet. Um, and then some of them have the little claws. So like I'm sure that I won't get it right all the time. But oh, and there's a question there about that. Just that some of the characters have some distinct features like the black cat tail. Do you plan to keep them implemented in the comics, or will that change from time to time depending on the panels? Um, yes. So, like Gary said, he's fine with some iterations, but I want to stick to the versions that already exist and try to just build on that. I mean, their expressions might be different for something that they're doing um, or moving. Like you'll probably see that with the hardworking wombat when I do that one because he's going to be kind of scurrying around doing all kinds of things. So it gives us um, try to keep it on model, I suppose, when we can. But Gary explained it to me like he's like, when you see Spider Man, or I think he says Iron Man, you know, the first Iron Man was like a yellow, or no, Daredevil, that's what he says. Daredevil had a yellow costume when he first came out, and then it changed to red, and the different iterations of things, different styles of different artists too along the way. But like a good one to think about is Spider Man, I think, because you have like a Spider Man kids cartoon, and it's a different, you know, bubbly style. And then you have the comic books, which might be a little bit more um, comic booky. And then you have the movies, which are like, realistic and stuff like that. So there's a lot of room to grow with these characters. I'd be surprised. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a surprise to see how all this kind of plays out. Maybe there will be like a blockbuster movie featuring hardworking wombat. You know, and I'm gonna listen to the fans. So, like, if the fans and Gary, like, if so the fans are like, "Hey, you're drawing that tail wrong," or something, I'm gonna go, "Oh, okay, let's do that." I assume we'll be doing some live in person stuff too. We'll see how that goes or what the setup will look like. But I've done that at Comic Cons and whatnot, so it's no real difference to me in drawing here on this screen and drawing on, you know, any other screens. But I think that's what made me decent at. I'm trying to get my artist friends to do more live streams, and when I talk to them, they're very shy or they're very like, I can't focus on drawing and talking at the same time. But me doing Comic Cons for so many years, I had to learn to draw, a quality fan art or something while a fan was talking to me, or um, it just made me better at talking while I draw. Sometimes I'll get quiet and it's just kind of going into like that zone. I call it the zone. Some people call it like a flow state where you're like, time just kind of fades away, and it's a really relaxing process to kind of get into the lines, and probably works with anything. Music, I've heard my musician friends talk about that. Just kind of get into it. Takes about 20 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes to kind of get into that state. Yeah, there you go. VeeFriends said, these comics are for social content for now. So that's the official answer to that. Yeah, I guess when you're doing something that you really love to do, well, it's still work, but you definitely lose track of time. So I've done some streams before on my other channel, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it went 5 or 6 hours. And I don't expect everyone to watch the full thing, but you know, it's just, why not? Why not turn it on and let people take a look? You know, hopefully by doing this, I can encourage some other artists too, art friends of mine, to kind of level up and don't worry about what you look like on camera. I mean, I used to worry about that stuff too, or people would make fun of my hats or things I was wearing, because people can be mean on the internet. But you just gotta be like, I don't care, man, whatever. Like, hope you're having a good day. Good day to you, sir. When I was younger, I'm old now. I'm an old man now, so when I was younger, I used to worry more about that, or I used to fight with people on the internet, or you get involved in these things that were just like, why am I so upset about this issue? Like, or comic flexing on the comic artists flexing on each other on the internet. Jeez, what a waste of time. So, but those days are all gone. Those are the early days of the internet with the webcomic people, and we're all grown-ups now. Like, we don't have time for that stuff, you know? Gotta make good comics, and, it's been nice to hear from some old friends that saw the news and were like, "Wow, was not expecting that to see that." Still here, still drawing comics, and now I get to draw them for VeeFriends, so it's super cool. Okay. Tabletop asked, looking awesome. Which comic strips artists inspired you when you first got started? Um, Let me think here. When I first liked knowing like cartoons and comic strips in general, it was probably Garfield when I was little, Jim Davis, and that was all very interesting to me. Like, just I loved Garfield. Just I love those little collections that I'd go to, like the probably sixth or fifth or sixth grade. You'd go to the library at school, and they'd have the little sales, and I'd always get the Garfield treasuries that were there. They're just really cool. And I learned to draw Garfield really good when I was a kid, and it like impressed all the adults. Draw Garfield, draw Garfield, and so I'm like, oh, that's neat, you know. It was kind of like I didn't realize it was a job. It could be a job back then, but definitely Garfield. And then when I got really in the teenage years into comics, this is going to be, I'm going to use a different color through here. So we'll just get on that in the color stage. So that panel's done. When I was a teenager, I stopped thinking about comic strips after a while. So I think when I was 8 years old, I thought about G.I. Joe, the G.I. Joe comics, and realizing that comic books were a thing. And I kind of shifted to comic books for a minute. I was always jumping back and forth between comic books and comic strips, and I thought you could only do one or the other. That was like a rule that I had for myself for years. It was like I'm a comic strip artist, and now I'm a comic book artist, right? I always felt like you only had to be one or the other, and to a certain extent, that's still going on today. Like, cartoonists kind of get stuck in thinking like, well, I'm a this and I'm not a that. But I learned to draw in the different styles, and so I got into comic books in the late '80s, early '90s. So we're talking Todd McFarlane, you know, the early Image Comics days when they all went and formed Image Comics. I was kind of coming up around that time. Got to ditch school. Don't ditch school, kids, but got to ditch school and go hang out at Image Comics headquarters up in Anaheim. Long story there, but just got to see behind the scenes of like how all that stuff was made, and that was my main goal. But yeah, major Todd McFarlane fan early on, and it's really funny because Todd would say things like, if people didn't know that I really don't know how to draw, and you'd go, that's crazy, because his work is so, great. But then as an adult, you come back to it and look at it when you're 30 or something, and you're like, oh, I see what you did there. Like that doorway, like he would say that. He would say, I'm faking half my art, and people just love it. when you're a kid, you're like, that can't be true. He's a master cartoonist. But as an adult, you're just like, oh, I see what you were doing there. It's funny. Which gives you more confidence because you're like, oh well, shoot, if he could do that, then I could do that. That's But other cartoonists that are my favorite are Berkeley Breed from Outland, and Bill Watterson. I forgot talking about him. I forgot about that, but of course Bill Watterson from Calvin and Hobbes. My wife got me the nice treasury edition of the Calvin and Hobbes for Christmas. And it's a very nice collection. And he retired early. I didn't realize that Calvin and Hobbes only went for 10 years or something like that. I thought it was around much longer. He just didn't have much more to say, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to draw this guy. I'm going to ink this guy in. Yeah, I don't want to. Mark Smith says, ditch school kids. It builds character. I don't want to encourage kids to ditch school, but I don't even know if kids are really rebellious anymore. I don't know. Times are different. I'd say the 70s, 80s, and 90s were very different than they are now. Like, kids' ideas of rebelling are way different than what might have been in my day. It wasn't like we were committing crimes or anything. We were just going and hanging out at a comic book publisher. I got to meet Todd McFarlane early on in the elevator at Image Comics, and I had this print, and actually my wife just found the print in the garage. It was Spawn, and he's on like a cross, and it's so moody and just it's so cringy right now to look at, but I showed it to him in the elevator, and he was like, "Oh, that's really good. You should make prints of that." That's what he said, like Canadian guy. And so then I went home and I made prints of it because, I was like, he gave me permission to make prints, and nobody was caring about my prints of that stuff. But it wasn't a bad drawing. It's just cringy now to think about it. But I was 14 or 15, It's always cool to kind of, they say like don't meet your heroes or whatever, but I don't really believe that because I got to meet him at different stages of my other comic career, and he got to remember me, he got to remembering who I was, which was just bizarre. When you've been a fan of somebody for so long, and then they not become your friends, but they know who you are. We drew a comic strip. This writer named Brian Lynch and I drew a comic strip where he was featured in it. It was like who was going to take over the Peanuts comic strip, and he wrote Todd McFarlane in as like Todd McFarlane's Peanuts. This is somewhere online if you look it up. But Todd saw that and emailed us, and so then I had a back and forth email with Todd McFarlane, and I was like, I have Todd McFarlane's email address. Holy cow. And then years later, I tried out for a thing, a inking position. I didn't get it, but I was pretty good, but there's definitely better inkers for the book Haunt. Tried out for that, and but it was just cool. And then I think I saw him one year at San Diego Comic-Con. He was just kind of passing by my table, and or we were right next to the Image Comics table with Keen Spot, and he was like, "Hey, how's that guy?" Like, "Yeah, I'm still around. I'm still doing stuff, Todd." And I just saw it. I don't want to talk about Todd McFarlane too much, but I just saw my friends Jim and Ed from Cartoonist Kayfabe on YouTube just interviewed him for that interview went live at midnight last night, and so I got to watch that. So it's cool that they get to interview Todd, and you know, he's a nice guy. I wish he would draw comics again. Because he got into toys, McFarlane Toys. But like, he was such a wonderful cartoonist. He still draws some stuff. I got a poster behind me here of Spawn and Pearl Jam. It was a collaboration they did for a concert. And so, yeah, I guess that answered a long-winded answer to that question of who my favorite cartoonist is. It might be Todd McFarlane. I don't know. Got a lot of Todd McFarlane stories. I never thought I'd meet Berkeley Breed from Outland in Bloom County, and I was at I think it was New York Comic Con, and I was just bumbling around, like just looking around at stuff, and I look at this table, and there's Berkeley Breed just sitting there, and it didn't look like there was a line for him or anything. I'm like, that's super weird. I'm gonna go say hello. And so I just walk right up and say, "Hey, man! Oh my God, I can't believe you're like we talked online about Basset Hounds a couple years ago." And he was like, "Yeah, that's weird, guy." But I got the last hardcover, and he signed it to me at the table, and I didn't realize that I had cut this line. I didn't realize the line was around the back of the booth. So this handler came up to me and was like, "Where did you come from?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just walked up and thought there was no line." So bad line management at that show. But I got to meet Burke in person. Another great cartoonist that I like is Darwin Cook. He passed away a few years back. But Darwin Cook in comic books, wonderful animated style. There's only a few occasions I've ever fanboyed out, and I got to go to this really like fancy Wizard magazine party at Los Angeles Comic Con one time, and there was like an open bar, and so I went up to go wait in line for a drink, and Darwin Cook was like two people in front of me, and I was like sweating. I'm like, "Don't say anything. Don't bother him. You're a professional guy. Like, don't geek out. What's going on?" It was like an involuntary response. I've been around other, famous people in comics, and I never cared, but Darwin, I was like, "Man, that guy is cool." He was just a cool dude, too. All right, so that's going to be that. We're going to bump down these words. And again, these words will all be like magical words kind of floating around in different colors. Figure that out. Just to reset show it again here. We got a situation where someone's being rude in an airport to the barista, and also their phone is blaring. And people are noticing. And you got the hummingbird calling in to Peaceful Pelican that they have a jerk alert at gate 5. And then Pelican's kind of behind the scenes somewhere. They'll be like in a colorful room or something. Roger that. Buzzard is en route with an empathy bomb. and then he bombs the dude with the empathy bomb. It's like a magical, magical explosions. No one else can see it. Maybe it's like, the voice of Gary or something hitting him, and he's like, "Oh my gosh!" And then he's apologetic at the end, kind of like sweating. And the barista's like, "Oh, it's okay," and she offers him a free coffee. And then the birds are high fiving down there. That's kind of the situation. All right, we're an hour in. 2 panels inked up. Get to coloring here in a little bit, probably. Let's see. All right. I'm gonna figure these out and just move these down a little bit. The lines are just kind of there for just to like guide like where it might not be the final place where the words go, so I can move them around, stretch them and whatnot. It'll look a little different when I'm inking it. I want it to be a little wavier. Might change that to jerk. I don't know. We'll see. Gary sent some other ones too. So like I said, we have about 3 strips that are ready to make. So I'll be making those probably this week live too. I don't know if I don't know what the schedule will be. I'd like to get ahead and not be like live and then this is this day's comic. I'd like to get, occasionally there will be like a live comic that goes up that day, but I think it would be good to get ahead on some of the strips so we can get a good schedule going. We'll get there. We'll get there. And then his phone is being thrown. Oh, wrong line. It's nice having I got shout outs to my wife. She's the one that has to put up with me as I'm talking about this stuff all the time. She's very supportive, but she'll also tell me like if I'm like I think an idea is really funny, and she's like the editor of like, no, don't say that. I'm sure I'll give you some examples at some point of some bad ideas I've had, but I also kind of feel like these are really like heavy, these are heavy strips, I'd say. Like there's a lot going on, which are good. But I'm also interested in like simplify, like how do we get some like really deep, thoughtful things across in like less lines and less words sometimes, Yeah. In comics, too many words can be kind of a weakness. You want to make the pictures really tell a story. So those are some of the best comic strips that you remember, probably. Garfield having a bad Monday, or the Spider and Garfield. What else? Lucy and the football with Charlie Brown. You just got to know those situations. I think we don't know what that is for this yet, but we'll get to that. I'd like to get to that. I think it's just going to happen organically, which is fun to let it kind of unfold. You know, can't wait to color this because it's going to be a fun thing. I can use some brushes where there's some very colorful effects like sparkles and stuff. You know. All right, we're getting there. A lot of friends. You've probably got a lot of friends that are posting their goals or resolutions for the new year, and it's a pretty, typical thing to happen. I posted my goals, intentions. So number one is this strip because it's quite a job to do, and that'll be my main goal for the year, I think. But also, like I said earlier, just kind of encouraging my art friends to draw more, not be afraid that they're not good enough, and then we're gonna change it to jerk. You know, just try not to swear. Try. I'm switching it up because when I see people say like I'm going to share this with my kids, and I'm like, oh man, I just, you know. It works both ways. Also, jerk ties to the jerk on the tag and then the jerk in the first panel, so it's kind of a nice thing. It's almost funnier to me that Starbucks would start out like as if Starbucks were a bad word. I like Starbucks coffee, by the way, but I'm just saying. It's a bad word to some people. So yeah, the other goal was, encouraging some people to draw, to learn how to draw, because you don't have to be like um, Picasso or anything or Michelangelo. You can doodle little things. It's just nice. It just feels nice to do. You can wow your coworkers, your family. It's like just learn to draw a rocket ship. Put that on a whiteboard during a meeting. And your people will think you're Houdini. I had a meeting with meeting. It was a meeting, but I had a friend, Brian G. Johnson, who does YouTube videos, and like I did some like coaching stuff with him just to talk through like my own brand and stuff with art. And I would always say like I'm not a how to draw, I'm more of like a why to draw artist. And he's like, why do you think that? I'm like, I'm not a good teacher. And he's like, these are limiting beliefs that you have. And I mean, he really broke it down for me to the point where I was like, man, I needed some outside person to say that to me. So like, if you only surround yourself with like yes people and like, I like people to give me the truth. You know, Brian did a really good. Brian did a good job of that. So thank you, Brian. It stuck with me and it helped me think about limiting beliefs. When I hear people say, now I hear people say, I could never draw like that. And I go, no, you could. You could. If you really wanted to do it, you could do it. Unless you didn't have arms or something, or hands. Then you might have, that might be a problem. If you have some sort of issue like that, then, well, okay, it's going to be trickier, but you could still do it. Believe in yourself. Okay. Can't see this line. 1 second. Put there. See, even this one's a little. This panel's a little wordy to me, but we're gonna leave it. I guess it just kind of gets the point across that she's kind of having some empathy for this dude. He's apologizing. And the empathy is that flying is stressful and she loves that flavor too. And now it's a kind gesture to give him a coffee on the house. The birds are super excited down here. Occasionally I'll also probably do stuff where I'll cut some corners and like repaste in the things I already drew, but I don't like to do that either. I like to just redraw the re-ink of things that I inked. Like I could probably paste in that stuff from there, but you see that the people that are sitting there are gone now. They've caught their flight. And it makes it just a little bit, I don't know why, It's just, again, I like to do it that way. It's more lines to meditate on, I guess. But I'm sure in the future there might be times where I'm like, all right, I don't want to draw the Starbucks counter again. Years ago, my tattoo artist, I was getting some tattoos, and he was just like, and I'm very, I think that tattoo artists are amazing what they do, and I have a lot of respect for tattoo artists. And he had mutual respect for comic artists because he was like, I could never do that. How do you do that? And I said, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you draw the same. He said that he just feels like, he draws it once and it's done, or maybe a couple times. But to draw the same character over and over and over again in different poses and different angles, and he's like, that's crazy. And I never thought about it until he said it. And I'm like, that is kind of crazy. What am I doing? It is very crazy to think about. Just never really thought about it. It's a different type of thinking, for sure. Hopefully the stream looks good. This saw that it was 720p was a limit on this, but it's looks decent from what I'm seeing. Let me look here real quick. I just want to take a peek. Yeah, that's fine. It looks fine. Good enough. You know, I'm a stickler for like, it would be nice to be like, you know, super high resolution or something, but that's fine. It's fine. It's fine for what it is. And I think I figured out my microphone problem that I was having a couple days ago, or a couple weeks ago. Learning all about that the past few years, you know, YouTube stuff, YouTube gear, and turned out I listened to my friends like Daniel Batal. He told me, oh, you know, you need this mic and this stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, I need a good mic. I need a good sound. Can't just use my iPhone, you know. Cool. So I got this. Well, I think it's a sound. I don't even know what the device is called, guys. It's a Focusrite Scarlett thing that the mic plugs into because it doesn't just do a USB cord. Special cord there for that. And then I didn't have a preamp plugged in to the between the box and the thing and the mic. And so it was causing some fuzz occasionally, I think. But I'm talking to Daniel like, hey man, what's going on? You told me to buy this stuff. And he's like, well, I told you to get a preamp too. And I'm like, no, you didn't, Daniel. But he probably did. I just wasn't listening because I don't, you know, I can't even remember the names of the devices. I'm a cartoonist, not a, you know, gadget guru, but I just want to be able to magically push a button and have everything just turn on and go live. I think that's the goal. Hey, thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been over 11 years. So 11 years ago, I was full-time with comics. So I woke up every morning and I had different jobs to do. And then I took a day job for 10 years. That went by accidentally at Spreadshop. So I did like print on demand merchandise for like YouTubers, and I designed stuff, and then I started just kind of went up the chain in that corporation, you know, and led some teams, the creative team, and then did a whole bunch of stuff for 10 years there. Built some really fun, positive teams. Team Awesome, shout out to Team Awesome. And but yeah, I got to work with YouTubers and all kinds of stuff. I drew PewDiePie's shirts for PewDiePie and Tabascus and a bunch of the original YouTubers. I did a bunch of artwork for them. That was after doing 13 years full time of comics. And then I would still draw my comics on the side and do things on the side. And Comic Cons on the weekends for a long time. So it's been a long time since comics were my full time thing, and I'm super excited to just wake up now and, you know, probably some meetings occasionally, but I'm sure they're fun meetings, and get to work and maybe try to go as live as possible with it. You know, I won't always be able to talk the whole time. Maybe it'll just be chill music where you can watch me. And I really like what Gary's doing with the Twitch stream. These are things I've thought about for years. I'm like, well, if you're already there doing the work, as long as there's not like top secret stuff happening. People like to watch what's going on, kind of peek behind the scenes. So, all right, my wife told me that everything looks good on the big screen downstairs, and it's looking good. So, thank you. It's gonna be fun to also meet a lot of you in person, and probably VCon, maybe some other Comic Cons, I'd imagine, or something. I don't know, but definitely figuring on that. VCon was such an awesome experience for me. I didn't really know anybody, and just kind of taking it all in. It's really cool. If you didn't go last year, I definitely recommend it. Great speakers and awesome people. The community is just awesome. What platform are most of the viewers on today? I don't know how to see. Let's see. Twitch. I'm running this by myself today, so I can't see a number. I think there's like 8 people on YouTube right now. So YouTube's probably the less. I'm going to say X. There's probably a lot more people watching on X. Or if I skim through here, Twitch, X, X. So it's a mix of X and Twitch, back and forth. Looks like. Yeah. Look through these comments real quick. I can do read only I can't really reply back, so I'll just reply back with audio. I can do read only with the comments on X too, so I can reply if you have any questions. But should probably get to the coloring soon. Maybe between coloring and finishing the strip here, I'll stop to draw the wombat and the rattlesnake. Just sketch them out. That'll be a fun little segment. Break it up a little bit. Especially since the agenda says it. If I got all the way to the end of this strip and then I was like, I don't want to draw the wombat now. I'm tired. And I would have failed my mission today. Okay. This will be like a high five slap. Ridiculous. There's going to be a lot of high fiving in the comics. It's just something that the go-to end panel, like, yeah. Yeah, I'll probably keep saying it. I don't think I'll stop saying it, but it's been an awesome welcoming to the community and so many nice messages, DMs, and comments. Just really awesome. Thank you, the VeeFriends community. And I haven't even met I've met, um, I've met Andy and Gary and May and um, a few other people, Tyler, Jeremy, um, on meetings so far. But we just got right to it. There was no. It was just like, let's get to work. Let's start doing these streams, which is cool. Like I'm all about it. So um, I'm sure there's so many more people I need to. A couple of the tech guys the other day. I'm sorry, I forget your name, but they helped me get going. Is it Evan? But yeah, it's such a cool vibe of you know everybody's excited and don't want to let you down. So I gotta, it's no pressure or anything. I'm just want to make sure that you like the comics and also getting used to people saying that they like my voice is really strange, but I'm getting used to it. It's something I've been hearing, which I understand because I have a friend who Clueless Bushcraft on TikTok, um, and he's got a really nice voice. You could just listen to him talk about anything. He's usually talking about like outdoor survival stuff. But I'm like, yeah, man, it's nice to just put your videos on and listen to you talk, Tom. And he's like, yeah. And all of his comments on TikTok are like, can you read us a bedtime story and stuff like that. So he came to Pittsburgh to hang out. So I'm in Pittsburgh area, and he taught me a lot about like, hey, do this for TikTok, and really like interesting things that some of these like pro TikTokers are doing, man. Like he'll make mistakes on purpose so that people will comment and go that wasn't blue, that was green. And he does it on purpose so that he gets engagement. I'm like, oh, that's so clever. Like he'll hold up a trident that he just formed and he'll be like, oh, these 4 prongs. And people are like, there's only 3 prongs. I'm like, how clever is that? We went hiking with that guy and Tom, and he loves mushroom. Like he gets so excited about like the wild mushrooms around here and stuff. He's from Minnesota and he doesn't have the same stuff growing there, I guess. So he's stopping, whatever, but he's a master at filming himself. Like he'll put his little tripod down and he'll go do something. But the final video, it showed him like what looked like he was refilling his water bottle from like a still pond, and then he's drinking, but he's not drinking the still water. He knew what he was doing there because like all the comments are like, dude, you're gonna die, like you're gonna poison yourself, and he's like, yeah, I knew that they would do that. So like that's funny. So maybe we can deploy some of that engagement schemes for like I'll accidentally draw the wrong character or something, or so that everybody is like freaking out. I don't think we need to trick anything for engagement. I'm just saying it was interesting to learn that. It's going to be hard to miss because if I'm going live, been an hour and a half now. On some of the streams, I might just try to get a full comic done. Some of them I might just say, okay, we're going to just do the inks and then call it a stream, because I can go a lot faster when I'm not talking, and engaging. But because again, it would be really nice for us to get ahead. We'll get there. What else was I going to do on New Year's Day? Like just sit around and think about streaming tomorrow, or so nice of the team too to be like, well, yeah, if I'm comfortable going on the stream and getting access, and just, I'm not going to break anything or say anything crazy. I must admit that I don't know a whole lot about the inner workings of the dynamics of the different, I don't know what to call it. I'm just going to say what I'm thinking in my mind. I know it's not going to be right, but the fandoms within the community. So you got the Bison, you've got the Hangout Hawks. I know about these, and the groups that would form it, like they'd get together at the VCon. So I didn't really understand. I thought it was just a clever strip about the catfish and the bison. So I just did not know any kind of inside joke about that. I just drew it to the best of my ability, and so my wife and I were like, "Whoa, what is going on?" Like we were like getting into following like what happened, and I'm like, "This is cool." And one of my friends messaged me, and he's like, "Are you trying to say that the like he just didn't understand the strip?" I think um, he was like, "Are you guys saying that compassion is weak?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think that's what we were saying." I'm like, "Honestly, man, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm just this is cool, and this don't think too much into it." And he's like, "Okay, well, it was drawn good, but I think you're making fun of compassionate people or something." And I'm like, "No, my goodness." So what else have I experienced since the getting announced doing this is that there's a certain circle of my friends, my personal friends, that they know who Gary is, for sure. And I think they think that I'm not really working with him. Like they're like, "Oh yeah, you're working for him, but you're not working with him. Like you don't really know him." And meanwhile, my wife and I were at our favorite, or my favorite little dive establishment, restaurant, family restaurant, Bud Murphy's in Connellsville, Pennsylvania. I think I got like a voice text from Gary about one of the strips. I don't want to say which one. It was about Admiral and Cougar, and Gary's kind of like hushed. Like we're picturing Gary like going, "Okay, so Admiral and Cougar are doing that, da, 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 right?" And we're listening at the bar. We're just laughing, going like, "This is the most surreal thing. Like nobody else could imagine." Like we're like, does anyone even around here even know like what's going on right now? So that's the fun thing for my wife and I. We're like, people don't know, and then like some people are confused. Why would I quit my job? Like, oh my gosh, like you had a really good jobs. Um, it's just a side hustle, right? Your comics are just a side hustle. And I'm like, no, no, it's a full time job now with Gary, and people just can't compute like that comics can be a full time thing, like for content. And they're confused, why I would walk away from other jobs, and I'm like, well, because number one, this is what I'm really passionate about, and I'm lucky enough to be able to do it, and have the opportunity. I still enjoy all that other stuff I was doing. I was doing marketing and strategy, basically, guys. Like I did marketing and strategy and team building for companies. But to me, marketing is all just storytelling. So everything I learned about marketing, I learned through comic books and drawing and framing stories, and it was just like magic to companies. So, you know, um, I didn't really even have any formal education in marketing or design. I just studied people like, you know, Ogilvy and David Ogilvy, and a lot of cool books. And I was like, "Oh, this is just storytelling," right? And so it was a natural progression to go from like visual storytelling into marketing. Um, Marketing has kind of a bad word sometimes, but nope, it's not. It's cool, and the synchronicity of like hearing Gary say that like you know I think he's mentioned David Ogilvy a couple times, and one of my favorite bars up in New York is an Irish pub where was across the street from Ogilvy's place where he would sit. I just kind of accidentally ended up there one day after New York Comic Con a couple years ago. We went in for some lunch or something, and I looked up above the bar, and there was the Ogilvy O. And I asked the bartender, I'm like, "What is up with that? Is that the Ogilvy O?" And he's like, "It is." And they told me the story about how that used to be the bar of the Ogilvy agency back then. And there's a table in the corner that's, I think it's the Landmark Tavern, right? There's a little table in the corner that's Ogilvy's, where he would sit and write and drink and stuff like that. And there's a little picture of him on the frame on the wall. And I thought, man, this is neat. So New York's awesome too. So I'm looking forward to coming up more often. We love the Comedy Cellar up there, and New York. One of my favorite places in New York is Bryant Park. I think that's what it's called, and I think it's over near the library. But the reason I like that park is because there's a famous story, or not, famous within my circle of famous. Jack Kirby. You might know Jack Kirby's name as the Marvel Comics guy that was with Stan Lee and all that stuff. Pretty much created most of the characters. Just saying. But back in those days, getting a syndicated comic strip was like, in the 1950s, was considered like, that's it. You have made it. You are now a career artist. And so Jack Kirby had finally gotten a daily comic strip called Sky Masters of the Space Force. And he considered that like amazing. So the first thing he did was he went out and bought an awesome suit and a cool cane. And he was walking with his fancy suit because like cartoonists used to dress very well, they're very prominent characters. And it was how he showed off his pride of getting this job. And his friends were like at that park, and he would walk by and they were talking like, "Oh man, look at Jack." And I just like to go to that park and sit and think of Jack strolling by with his suit, all proud of his job and stuff. Like, there's more to that story I'm forgetting, but it was fun. That's what I think of. It's also a very nice park, but try to at least pop by every time I'm in New York. Just kind of go and chill for a minute and sketch. Think about those old ghosts hanging around up there. All right, cool. So we got this inked up. It took a little longer than I wanted to ink. Hour 40 minutes. Pretty good. We're ready to throw some color on that. Okay, great. Like I said, we're going to pause for just a second. I'm going to draw the wombat and the rattlesnake. Hardworking wombat and rational rattlesnake real fast. And I'll just do that on another strip. little sneak peek for you. This is another comic I was kind of thinking of, featuring the self-aware hare and the uh, humble hedgehog. Humble hedgehog. Okay, so just to break it up a minute. Between coloring here for one of the future strips, the next strip I'm going to work on has humble hedgehog and, or not humble hedgehog. What am I thinking? Hardworking wombat and rational rattlesnake. So I'm just going to kind of talk through. Let's go with the wombat first. Kind of go in here. And what I'll usually do is I'll just kind of look at the shapes. So the VeeFriends all have different shapes. So he's got kind of like this kind of shape going on with his head. And I think about the silhouettes first. So I'm just going to draw this real small and then I'll blow it up. It might not look really crazy. And then some of the bodies are like this shape. Like some of the bodies have this shape. Some of the bodies have this shape. So I'm learning the different characters. So I'll get faster with them too, but Humble Hedgehog definitely has one of those little bean bodies, let's call it. And then, he's got, I talked about it earlier, but some of the characters have those paws that don't have claws. Some of them have paws that do have claws, and Wombat definitely has the little claws. And probably like this. So when I'm learning to draw a character, I'll just do the outline real small, and I'm going to blow him up. See in a second. The silhouette is important to like what's up. We'll work on him first. Big nose. All right, great. Just blow him up. Great. That's good. We'll move him over here. We'll just get this. I'm going to fade out this panel. All right. So it'll be a little sketchy. But you can kind of see it kind of starting to come together, right? Any giveaways today? To hear ask on X? No, I don't have anything to give away. But I'm sure we'll do something like that in the future, maybe. You know. Give away thoughtful advice. That's what I can give away, maybe. Okay, so now that I'm in closer, I see that he's got like this little kind of a little indentation underneath his chin. Like that. I'm drawing the hardworking wombat right now. For the first time. First time. And then get in there and figure out. The coloring is a whole other thing, right? Because like, I'll explain what I'm looking at. I'm just looking off a picture right now of wombat. I don't know if I can pull it up on here, maybe. A little side by side. I just kind of look at what the characters. Yeah, you can see what I'm kind of looking at. Reference sheet on my other screen. So I'm kind of looking at the straight on view for right now, but kind of not. Kind of both. I know he's got like a big nose. Big. It's a little lower than that. This big. I'll shine over here. We'll just call it that. Little mouth. Right. He also has the color will go up his nose like that, and then his eyes will be right here. Maybe a little smaller. And I've noticed that like there's those, when the lines are not all black. This is just that style for the trading cards, so the version 2. But I like that style where there's just like a half of a black line and the rest will be white. So if I'm just inking it, or drawing it, I'm going to draw just that line, and then make them kind of looking up. And I think I usually have to, someone else asked on the other stream, I think Jeremy, like how long before I kind of get to know a character. I think I draw him a couple times and then I kind of get to know him a little bit. I might go off model occasionally, but you might even need puffier cheeks over here. Let's just do that. Just a little subtle puff to his cheek there. It's looking like him. And then he's got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And he's got like these hair things, whiskers. I'm not going to say what the strip is that we came up with for these two, but the rattlesnake and wombat are in it. That'll be like the next strip that we'll work on live this week sometime. I'm sure we'll get the schedule going. Again, he's got that. I'm just going to call it like a bean body, like kind of like a peanut body sort of thing. It's fun to learn to draw different characters, And I don't need to get every line exactly the way it is. I get that these dotted lines here just kind of like to denote that that's where some hair is, And, it doesn't look like he has fingers in this one, but over here, he definitely has his fingers. So I think it just depends on like what he's doing. He's got the little, we're going to call them claw nubbins. That's what I'm going to call them. Little nubbins for claws there. You don't always have to show every single finger too. You know what I mean? Like, because they're kind of back behind there. And okay. He also has those on his feet. Got the classic like cartoon feet. Let's just, cartoon paw feet, but he's got the little claw nubbins there, so pop that out. These little nail nubbins. I guess. All right. And then, that's just a sketch, but I would start to fade out that. If we just wanted to turn off that line, we can start to see, what he really looks like. I don't know if he has a tail or not. I'm gonna imagine he has a tail, but I can't see the tail on here, so let's see. We'll figure that part out later. Maybe he just won't show us. Let's say he has like a little nubbin tail. I don't have all the model sheets yet. I'm just going from what I can find on the internet or on OpenSea. Right, cool. And then once I have him like that for the next strip, I think part of it has him doing things. So like if I wanted to turn that layer back on, and then I don't know if I wanted to make, now that I know that his shapes are a certain way, I can have him doing things. So if I want to blow that little, so I guess explaining a little bit more about why I do it real tiny like that. I've never really I've never heard any other artists do this, but I like the silhouettes. I've heard that. So like I just see sometimes when you doodle really small, you catch some sort of energy um, that you don't get when you're trying to draw large. So like there's a gesture or energy there that I can see that whenever I fade that out, um, that's really faded on now. So you can at least see the sketch. Here we go. So now, I guess the point I was trying to make was that switch my lead to black. 1 second here. Okay. Nope, on the wrong layer. Nope, 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 nope. Okay. The point that I was trying to make was that the gestures that you could have a character doing kind of get captured in that little frame. Maybe a dark gray instead of black. When you try to draw big all the time, if you've ever scribbled or something like that, and you're like, man, I had it when it was really small, like in the thumbnail, we'll call it, but you can't replicate it when you try to draw it bigger. So you want to capture that gesture. And his head's a little smushed, actually. I can just change that. All right, can stretch him out a little bit. Now that I'm looking at him. Right. It might not seem like it, but this is going to really help me with, the next strip. Like I might even use this little picture as like the base of one of the things I have him doing in the next strip. So I try to use everything so that we're not just messing around. Even the sketches that we do can kind of be used to something in the future. Right. I won't noodle around with it too much more than that. But once you get going, you can really have them doing anything. So if Gary's like, he's driving a tractor trailer, I can have that happening somehow. Just by understanding the form. Yeah, thanks for watching and hanging out on New Year's Day. We're going to do a lot more streams like this year, as often as we can. And we'll figure out better times a day, like what days are good for different time zones. And talked about coffee and comics. You know, I don't know what a wombat tail looks like. I'm just going to put a little puffin on there until I know for sure. But that's, right? That's the hard-working wombat. You can put a little shadow underneath him. Oh, he's running down the hallway. So, all right, so that's hard-working wombat. Leave it there. For now, let's start coloring that other strip. And then maybe I'll come back to rattlesnake if I get time. So now I have what I call in the background flats. I've already got the gray, you can see, turned on. We could probably kill all the pencil layers. All right, looks good. One thing we need to do, this takes a little bit of time to do, which might not be the most exciting thing to watch, but it's going to be, this is how it comes together. We're going to do some character flatting, and then when I get into the coloring stage, it goes way faster. So make sure I'm on the right lines. Yeah, basically what this is it's just going to block in the main character shapes. I'll try to outline it as fast as possible too. Right. This will make sense maybe later. That's what I'm doing. They're on their own layer, so I'll be able to isolate them so that I can stay within the lines. And it makes coloring a lot faster, especially when you're coloring like a lot of the same character over and over again. It would be a nice way to keep them on a different layer for the background. I'll show you in a minute. Matter of fact, maybe we will just color this first panel. So we're at 2 hours now on the stream. Maybe we'll color this first panel fully, and then we'll see where we're at and go from there. So since she's kind of overlapping that dude, I want to actually do 2 character layers because I don't want, I'll just change the color a little bit. Very subtle, you won't be able to see it. Probably. Oh yeah, it's different. You can see the different colors. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. This is one of those things where I know other artists that do it like this too. But other artists watching might be like, why wouldn't you just go ahead and put the flesh tone in there right now and just get it out of the way? I totally understand what you mean. Or use the fill tool and just fill up on that layer because I always want the lines to be separate. I want the lines to be on one layer. And I want the coloring to be on one layer just to keep it nice and clean, but also it'll make it faster here in a minute when I'm coloring all of the people that have a different or similar skin tone, or if the hummingbird was in a couple panels, it'll make it super easy to like flash through and get all of her coloring done one big swoop rather than, you know, rather than it being like a coloring book where you have to do each one every time. Stay within the lines, it'll just isolate. So we're gonna do her on this layer. We call it flatting. In comic books, there's a whole job for colorists called flatting, where they get paid, $20 a page or something like that, just to do the flatting for the colorist. It's like prepping it, but and they'll put in different tones and things for the final colors. But since I'm the one that's going to be doing the coloring here, I it's not. I don't want him to be. I want it just to be him. Since I'm the final artist, I just put it all in one color because I know what the colors are going to be. If that makes sense. Or at least I have an idea for what I think the colors will be. Oops. Okay. Right. Okay. That. Right. So that's, well, and then I may also um, do the balloons, the balloon colors. Now that is something that I could just, nope, can't do it there. All right, never mind. I'll finish my thought there. Since I didn't close these lines and they're another layer, the color would have just flown out. So instead, I'll just color in the balloon white. Right. What I could have done was go to the ink layer like this and just fill in the, right, just drag from there over to here and just drop it. And now that's on one layer. So that's relatively easy to do. Bang through here. See, that's what I mean. That's not closed. So I need to close this line. And now it'll work. Same thing up here. This is not a closed balloon. Closed line, so I gotta close it. And now let's get the same thing here. I'll just draw a black line underneath that line to close it. It's just that the reason I don't usually do it on that layer, it's just for speed. If I know that that's the final words, it's good to do that. But if we change the words, I'll have to redraw the whole balloon, because if I go to erase, it'll erase all of it. If that makes sense. It'll erase everything. We don't want that. But I think those are the final words, so I think we're good. Same thing here. Close that line up. White. Great. Tweeter, the comic strip, said, I can't draw and talk at the same time. I mentioned that a little earlier when I was like, I think I got used to doing it at Comic Cons. All right, so now I'll just select this layer, select it, and nope. Swipe right on it to isolate it. And then the background's already isolated. Cool. So we'll switch this panel. I might just go ahead and go automatic. So we're not going to go outside of this panel. And now we can have some fun with the coloring brushes I like. My gouache brush is my go-to. Just kind of stick with the blues, light gray blues. Maybe change the carpet color to a different tone. Oops. That's kind of becomes, I like to do backgrounds kind of like digital painting, if that makes sense. I'll try to color in the background. There's no real rules, but I'll try to get to the background first, like in the far background, like that space between there, and kind of work my way up. Shadows underneath the seats, just to add some depth. Right. And again, it's going to be so, it's not like anyone's going to view this like this size unless you're printing it out and putting it on your wall, which, okay. But there's a lot of little subtle things that you can do, like the seat that's behind them. You can't see it, but it's there. I'm just going to draw the shadow, right? The people's outlines will probably get colored in here, and then plane. It'd be funny if it's a Spirit airplane. Maybe. And since there's a window here, I might throw like a translucent. Oops. Oops. Nope. Nope. Ah. Okay. We'll fade out all these lines. Wow. So that it looks like it's behind a window. So do that in a minute. And since I'm in here and I'm drawing behind them now, I can actually draw maybe a silhouette of another plane kind of coming in. Just the shape. There's something back there outside the window. That's fine. There's other stuff out there. An airport. Just little subtle things. And then, since we got these two on the same layer, yeah, that's okay. I'll just keep it. I'll keep it all one layer. Maybe I won't. Seems like a lot of effort to put into something that people are only going to see for like a second, right? But it's worth it, I think. I don't know. And then I want to darken up the ceiling up here. Kind of frames in that balloon a little bit. Right. That's good. Okay. Just on the background layer. Good. All right. So these seats will probably be like, airport seats are kind of like white. Oddly white. Or blue sometimes. We'll go with white. Especially now that it's going to like really make that cameo from our cat. And we're just getting into little silly details that, again, don't really make a big difference, but just nice to add some depth to these seats a little bit. Make them more three-dimensional. You could noodle with that all day if you wanted to, but again, it's going to be so far out and so subtle. You can see it more in print or more on screen, but the shades there. Cool. All right. So now I'm going to go back to, well, let's just go ahead and finish put another layer over top of this one. And I'm going to draw probably like a different blue. Let's see what this looks like. I'm going to experiment. this is for the window that's behind them there. We want it to look like it's outside, if that makes sense. Right. And then I'm gonna isolate that layer. This just kinda... You've seen those lines right before. And I honestly don't know, like there's not a specific layer style. It depends on the color that's behind there. So since I put some yellows down and some blues, I can go to that layer option there and I can just kind of eye it up to see what's going to look the best. So darken, I'm going to just roll through them real quick and just see which one looks the best. Well, that one looks kind of neat, to be honest. It's not what I expected because the yellow from the plane's not there. So sometimes those nice surprises will look more like... That's pretty good too, that overlay one. That's good because again, it's like a subtle... I kind of like that. Let's see what the other ones are though. That was soft light. Let's see the hard light, near light. Also, depending on like what you want, maybe there's an apocalypse outside and it's going to be red. All right. All right. I'm going to go with soft light. This is kind of... Where was it? There we go. Just a subtle background scheme. I'm just going to finish this panel completely and probably call it a stream and then finish this up later, and you can tune in and watch the channels for when they post the actual full strip. That'll be good. Be a good long stream here. Okay, back to the character screen. So these folks... Now you see what I mean, because the color on the screen is not going to look like the color of the final strip, which is weird. It's a lot more peachier color that I'm using right now on these people. But same thing with the background guy here, which, it may or may not be Gary. It could be a guy that wants to be Gary. Yeah, they look really pale on the screen that I'm seeing. Strange. All right. I want to see something real quick. Just curious. Just curious what it looks like on YouTube. Nope. Not what I wanted to do there. YouTube. VeeFriends. I like the color to show up and match, but I don't think it's gonna. I think it's something to do with the streaming. Let's see. Live. Yeah, they look really pale. Super weird. That's super weird. It's way peacher. It's way more flesh tone, trust me. So the colors aren't specifically working through the stream there. So, well, anyways, we're just gonna muscle through that. And I promise it'll look good on the finished product. It'll look Sweet. It's gonna look good. See, 2.5 hours can just fly by when you're drawing comics. Having fun. Mosher Roth, tell us the story of how you got into drawing comics. Oh, okay. Probably repeat this many times, but there's probably going to be different answers. But yeah, when I was a kid, I always just liked comics, so comic strips specifically. And then I think it wasn't until I was 8 years old, and I found a copy of G.I. Joe number 21, which was all silent issue. There's no words in it. And it kind of hit me that like I'm watching this story without any words. And I realized like someone drew this and I want to draw. I want to do that. And so that kind of set that off. The epiphany of knowing that, you know, it was possible that a human did it. Some man or lady, had that as a job. And yeah, long story short, because it's many years of trial and error and submissions, you know, um, but what am I thinking here? Okay. But I'd say I got to do it pretty early on when in my 20s and through 30s. I got to do a lot of comics, a lot of paid comics for my job, and it's one really cool job to have. But it's very tough. It's a tough industry to be in. Not because I don't know, it's not a whole lot of guaranteed pay, and your jobs are definitely not guaranteed. So you always have to be looking for the next thing. And the part that I didn't really like about it was being a bill collector. That was not great. There you go. Yeah, so comics as a job, as a career, is tough to do. And, I never want to be a downer about it, but I knew so many old school artists that worked for Marvel and DC and like then just had to they just like aged out. They got too old, even in their 50s or 40s or late 30s to work at Marvel. Like the editors just would move on. So that sucks. Got friends like Ernie Steiner and a couple other dudes that drew for Marvel stuff. And comic strips in the newspapers, that's another whole other story, but um, everybody kind of sees what's going on with newspapers. I mean, there's not a whole lot left. And but I like to say it used to be that it's a fact that it used to be that newspapers sold because they were carrying different comic strips in them, and it was one of the big selling points of a newspaper. And then they replaced that with ad space, so comics got smaller and smaller and smaller as they charged the ad space, and then they just kind of got rid of, dwindled the comics to nothing. But they also lost readers over the years because of that, and because of the internet and where people get their news. So comic strips is kind of in a weird spot right now. You got web comics, which I was one of the first cartoonists to put up web comics in the late 90s. And but it's interesting. Comics are still a great way of communicating and getting an idea across, and I think we can do a lot of that with VeeFriends. I'm excited to do that with VeeFriends. None of it seems rational when you talk to normal people out there. If I say, it sounds almost delusional to say like, wow, wouldn't it be fun to just do this for the next 20 years and like build up where VeeFriends is known as like Garfield or something, in the future. My normal people friends are like, that's that's not real. You can't do that. I'm like, oh, okay. Let's see. Oh, I don't know what color his shirt should be. I'm gonna go with this. It'll be a nice weird contrast between the blues of everything that's going on over here and then colorful hummingbird situation. Shoes match the belt. Is that a rule? I don't know. Socks match the shirt. I don't know if these are rules or not, but makes it easy to decide what the color. Little subtle things like that, putting like a wrinkle on a shirt, can really make a difference too. And again, does anyone notice? I don't know. No one really thinks about that, but in cartoons, you gotta kind of just add little subtle things like that. Wrinkles in pants. Right. Okay. Do the hummingbird last. So we know that go back to the layer down here. First I gotta erase the window around the background of this. Just enough. Since this will be a faux Starbucks, I picture it's going to be a lot of brown and green and stuff like that. So that there. Cool. But I'll do the countertop first. There's still something there. What's there? What's there? Huh. Whoops. You can't see what I'm looking at because it's not coming through on the screen, but there's a faint line here. I'm going to get rid of that. Huh. Weird. Still there too. Okay. Wonder if my eraser brush is set to non-opacity. Huh. I might have accidentally clicked something. Got it. Whatever. I don't know what these little devices are on the counter. It could be like a credit card reader. Doesn't matter. Nice chocolatey countertop wood right there. Now that I'm looking at that, maybe just a darker wood at the bottom. Yeah, thanks, Matt, for suggesting the heart above the cockpit. It's funny that you say that the plane looked like Heart Trooper, but you know, that's kind of the fun little thing to just someone's watching and saying, why not? Why not throw it in there? It's really fun to hear too. Like I saw a lot of thoughts about like, I don't ever want to give away the magic tricks of things, but it's fun to watch people kind of guess what they think things mean. If that makes sense. Like even the 3 catfish in that bison strip. I saw people talking about that. Did it mean something? I don't know. But it's almost like a lyric of a song or something, I guess, if you it's still really dark up there. Oh, something's still not. There's still a faint. Huh. Okay. Yeah, it's like a lyric to a song or something, like I guess it might mean something to different people, or you might see something that someone else doesn't see, or maybe I subconsciously did it. That's kind of interesting to think about. Okay. That's fun. And I also imagine that, like, you might check in at the beginning of a stream and see the pencils and the inks, and then jump back in an hour later, or 2 or 3, and see how the strip's coming along. And it'll be fun. Let's get a nice dark here. Matt said, "What's crazy is how much time and effort are put into creative things that are consumed in such a short period of time." It's definitely true. but it makes you kind of look at the. I mean, at least for me, I look at something like that Spider-Man movie. Um, the amount of time it took to make that, you know, it's amazing. The amount of work that went into that. Or a comic book, a 32-page comic book, could take 2 months to draw that. It's nuts. It's definitely makes me look at art and movies, all of it, different way. I've been seen behind the scenes at movies where there's like months and months of storyboarding, and stuff like that goes on. And animation takes forever. That's what I like about comics is that it feels like I can get more done faster. Maybe because I'm impatient, I can get an idea out faster. It might look cooler if it was like a 3D animation or something like that, but people tend to remember, you know, the idea. If that makes sense. I think I accidentally just made a coffee logo, a fake coffee logo, our fake Starbucks. Okay. Get onto this lady here. Again, I don't know why it looks very pale on the screen, but I promise you in the final final art, the coloring looks a little bit different than what's on the screen there. And then I'll finish up the rest of the panels off stream. We'll take one last look too of what's going on here. Mm-hmm. 2 hours, 44 minutes. Not too bad. I think the bison strip took 4 hours and a half. I can tell that because if I go to this, if I just say go to here, go into my canvas information, 4 hours and 53 minutes, so almost 5 hours on that bison strip. It was a lot because I had to learn to draw the catfish and all that. So a couple of the initial strips will probably take 4 to 5 hours. What are we at here for this one? Because I did the pencils yesterday for 2.5 hours, something like that. I'm at track time 5 hours and 23 minutes on this strip. It's going to be interesting to keep track of that just for myself, because if I know that I'm doing like a full on, I'm stopping and talking a lot, it's going to increase the time per strip. So that's not very conducive of getting ahead. But we'll get a method to the madness and figure it out. It'll be good. Funky background music playing there. Pretty chill. We can just keep collar gray, hat green, and Plus, when there's like a whole scene of a lot of characters and things, it's probably something you don't want to do constantly, but when it makes sense for the comic, we do it. All right, that's looking pretty good. Let's do the hummingbird. Well, the guy's luggage. Let's just get rid of that. He probably has a different color of luggage. Put a shine on his shoe. Look at this. I'm gonna noodle. I can't help it. Can't help it. Okay, so hummingbird color scheme. I'm not going to pull the colors directly in. I think what I'm going to do is just kind of take a look at the hummingbird off of my. There we go. Look at this one. Maybe we'll just look at the. That one's a little choppy. Nope. That's good because it's very similar shape going on there. So most of her body is white. I'm gonna go ahead and just pick a white. Just drop it in. So now she's white. What I could do is I could drag this into the frame and pull the exact colors out. But the problem with that, there's a couple problems with that. I'll try to explain, but I can make it real small. We'll put her up on a big layer of the art. So I can just kind of, well, color matching is a whole other topic, to be honest. It's complicated. But sometimes when you're picking a color like that and just throwing it on, it might not look exactly the same. Right? So with the bison, for say, like I was color matching the bison, and the colors weren't really. The browns looked a lot darker on my screen when I was actually laying them down. That makes sense. That blue doesn't look bad actually, but there's a specific red for her main wings, so and her tail. So that. See, that red looks really bright to me, but we're gonna keep it. And then the other wings, it looks like there's other wings there. Those are actually movement, like fluttering wings. So we'll fade those out. Nice little effect. That. Everything is a little bit muted color-wise on YouTube or on the live stream, so that's interesting to see that. Which you'll have to tune in for the actual final strip. And then I like to do the two tones for a shadow. And really the version 2 animations, or the version 2 characters right now only have two tones. There's a shadow and a highlight, or shadow and main color. But whenever I cartoon, I usually like to do a 3, but I won't do that. Only when necessary, I guess. Um, but I like to have a mid tone. That's what this is. This is like the base tone, this orange. And then I like to have a shadow and then a highlight. So a 3-tone sort of animation. That's the same color as that. And then I believe her beak is the same color as her wings. So that's I'm very impressed with all of the work that's gone into VeeFriends so far. The other animators and artists and things have really designed some, and Gary himself, designed some unique, um, really colorful, and vibrant characters. I feel like I'm hearing something else talking through my speakers. This is weird. Weird. Do I know how the comics will be distributed? I think mostly just social media for now. That's what we're saying. Um, it's yet to be seen what will. Hummingbird's looking pretty good. So you can't even really see the shadow that's there. There's a shadow, but you can't see it on the live stream for some reason, but it's there. It's going to look really good on, social media when it's done. So, yeah, the next step for me will be I will finish this strip up um, after lunch, and then I'll shoot the panels over to the team, and they'll either distribute it tonight because technically headquarters is off, for New Year's Day. So I don't expect anyone to be working today. I just kind of did this because I figured why not. It's a good way to start the year, and I'm excited, very excited to get going here. Let's make the walkie-talkie a funny color like purple, just because that way when it's over here in the stork's hand, it'll be, kind of like like ties it in together that they're talking to each other beyond the words. It's like they've got these special walkie-talkies, I think. Oops. good, looking good there. So, all right, cool. This panel's looking good. Oops. So you can see that there's a person outraged. I'm just going to reset this, walk through this real quick. And outraged at the airport because they don't have their special flavor. Oh, you know what? I forgot this guy's gold chain. Let's do that real quick. Hey, Andy. Happy New Year. Had a lot of fun this year. So silly. What a silly gold chain. All right, so the guy's outraged at the airport. He's also got his music blaring on his phone, giving this poor barista a hard time. Throw a little coffee cup on her hat. Then Hummingbird calls in a jerk alert at gate 5. Peaceful Pelican radios that Bubbly Buzzard is coming en route with the empathy bomb. And he's like, LFG. The bomb is like a duffel bag to the jerk. Now, the fun thing that you're going to want to see when the final comic comes out, this panel will look like all magic and stuff with like the words that he can hear. So like he's like, oh my gosh. And then he apologizes to the barista, and she also has empathy for him, saying like, flying is stressful, and would you like to try this different flavor? And then the birds are high-fiving at the bottom, which is a fun ending. So that's that. If you missed, that will be the strip. I'm not going to color the rest of it because been going for 3 hours right now. So I'm going to take a break, and I'll come back and I'll finish this tonight, or it's after lunch. I'll finish the coloring on this, but before I go, I promised in the agenda that I'll learn how to draw the wombat, which I just did that earlier in the stream. So there's the hardworking wombat. It's sort of like a preview of one of the next strips that Gary wrote or came up with. Also features Rational Rattlesnake. So I'm going to learn how to draw that real quick. It's the first time I've drawn Rational Rattlesnake. Let's just get in there. I have another screen up where I can kind of look off the Rational Rattlesnake. That's fun. I'm just going to do the pencils just to kind of figure it out again. I'm going to start small with some red. Wrong pencil. It has like a that's the shape of the Rational Rattlesnake, kind of. I'm just going to go with that. Whoops. Nope. Freehand. Clean that up. Same process. I just kind of fade it out just to get the shape, the pose I want. And then thing. Well, his eyes have like the eyebrow line sort of thing going on. The nose will come in here. It's got a certain shape to it. He also has the nostrils. Very cartoony nostrils. This eye here. This eye here. It's a pretty good concept for this strip. I don't want to give it away. But I'm looking forward to doing this one. That's a little too long. Let's go with that. First time I've drawn rational rattlesnake, so trying to learn the different shapes, forms here. What's my personal favorite character so far? I think I like the astronaut just because I collect a lot of astronaut art too, just because I don't know why. I don't really have a reason why, but I also like the panda. And I think if I had to say like why or what draws me to that is just the patience. I think it takes a lot of patience to do this, to do art in general too. So you know, I relate to patience because I know that there's a lot of I coach a lot of younger artists and there's so much like people wanting shortcuts and stuff like that. Like they want to just draw this comic like right now and have it be successful. It's the typical thing, I guess, with anything. Musicians want to get famous fast. I have seen like a sponge. I've seen all of the characters now. I haven't drawn all the characters. It's going to take me a while to draw all of them, but I'm sure in no time. How many things do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I think 5 is going to be the number for his tail things. I just noticed that on one of the arts, there's 5 rattles. On the others, there are 6. But I know that Gary likes 5, so we'll always, if it's between 6 and 5, we're going to go with 5. Right? Interesting. So yeah, there's different shapes on a lot of these things, but they're all like kind of peanut shaped, or there's not really any method to. Some of them there are. I could tell why there's a like the shape of number 5 or some other like nuanced things that are on the characters that I'll learn over time, but yeah. Okay. Same thing with the someone asked earlier that I'll like the nuances of like the characters, and I'm gonna always try my best to stick to what's there. Like if there's something that Gary drew or the the versions that we're seeing, like the version 2, I'm gonna always try to stick to it um, as much as I can. I'm sure there will be like some variations, but I'm also open to feedback. So if 1, 2, 3, 4, let me just cross that out. When it's in color, have those color lines there. Yeah, I'm very open to feedback. So if someone's like, you know, you're doing this wrong, or I like it better this way, like, I'm sure I won't always be good, perfect at it, but that's a pretty decent rattlesnake. Maybe his face could. Oh, his head's a little turned up from where? From the other drawing that I'm looking at. That's a pretty decent rattlesnake, I think. Rational rattlesnake, hardworking wombat will appear in the next strip I do. One of the strips this week that we have. It's cool. And one last look at this one. We got the. This was just Gary texted me and said, "Draw the sommelier uh, with the big 2024." So that's like a sneak peek. And then I was just randomly learning to draw different, um, different characters doing different things, And so I was excited. So we don't really officially start till tomorrow, but it was nice to kind of really just kind of get into it. And Gary surprising everybody with the bison strip from yesterday. You can see there's the cat hanging out. Or the bison strip from Thursday, sorry. Feels like yesterday. And as you can see here, we're pretty primed for a lot more to come. So, all right. Let's see here. Whoop. Great. So, come back or stay tuned to the VeeFriends channels for the final strip. I'm going to go have lunch and I'll probably finish this up offline and then give the panels over to the team, and then they'll either go up tonight or tomorrow or whenever they choose to put it out. We don't really have a set schedule or time yet of when the comics will be coming out. It will be a daily, and it will be coming out like a daily comic strip. So we're going to try to get ahead. And but for now, these are just kind of like some, testing the water streams. Thanks to the VeeFriends team for letting me jump in here today. And I know that everybody's supposed to be off, and I don't want to make anybody work on their day off or anything like that. But yeah, really appreciate all of you for watching. Happy New Year. I can't wait to come back and do it again. We'll get a set schedule. And yeah, cool. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. I forgot to mention that I liked Gary's way of drawing the buzzard in the version 1.1, We'll talk about that. Let's go. Let's go have some lunch.